I've been reading this interesting book, which I highly recommend. It's called The Philosophy of the Church Fathers, Faith, Trinity, Incarnation, by Harry Wolfson. And he writes in part that the Church Fathers' understanding of the Trinity, get this, was a combination of Jewish monotheism, the Shema, and pagan polytheism, except that to them this combination was swell. I'll use an understatement here. It was swell. It was great. In fact, it was to them an ideal combination of what is best about the Shema and what is best about pagan polytheism. They glorified in it and pointed to it as evidence of their belief. We have a testimony from one of these early church fathers, says Wolfson, a guy called Gregory of Nyssa or Nyssa, and he writes in the Great Catechism, the Great Teaching, and this is 4th century. So he wrote, the truth passes in the mean, so in between the two concepts, the Shema and pagan polytheism, destroying each heresy. The Shema is heretical, and yet, says Gregory, accepting what is useful from each, the Jewish dogma destroyed. Well, the polytheistic error, and that was made to vanish, says Wolfson, by the unity of the nature, and there's that word that became big in the councils and stuff, abrogating this imagination of plurality. So the Shema, once again, we can trace it back how the Shema was destroyed. We have very honest, blatant, explicit quotes here from these so-called church fathers that someone criticized and said, you guys, you got this Focus on the Kingdom magazine. You guys should call it Focus on the Trinity as a criticism. So I answered with Mark 12:34. The context is about what's the first and greatest commandment. So Jesus is debating with a rabbi, and Jesus cites the Shema as a good Jew, and then agrees. I think it's the only agreement, I think, in the Gospels between Jesus and his fellow Jews. And they not only agree, but Jesus blesses his fellow rabbi and says to him in verse 34, you are close to the kingdom. So focus on the Trinity is focus on the kingdom, because the Shema in Jewish thinking, they call it the yoke of the kingdom. It's all about the kingdom. We're closer to the kingdom if we get the simple fact that God is one person, namely the Father of our Lord Jesus.